Leadership, that's what it is. They gave leadership to our foreparents, and that leadership made them slaves. But we have decided to find the leadership of our own.
Not your average nigga, I'm a god out the hood. They can't downplay me. I came up, I'm elevated. I ain't gotta say too much for them to know I'm coming for what's mine. You know they see me in my presence, say they see how I'm coming. Young, but you not just gonna finesse me like you did my peoples. Then back when you said they was emancipated. This ain't that. Your head too big. The game wasn't fair. You had the advantage. I don't look at you people the same. Nah. Your worst nightmare, my skin tone about them. Circus lying, son, I can't be tamed. You gon' have to kill me, pussy, Toby ain't my name. Y'all still want us think our history started when we were slaves? What? Come on now, talk about them pyramids we made. I was chosen by that man, you know y'all just been running game. The nerve of you acting like...
What's going on, family? Welcome back to Shifting the Culture podcast. I am your host and your brother King Cam. And tonight we have a action-packed show, a special one for real. Because honestly, we're going to be going over the Jonathan Majors verdict. The Jonathan Majors verdict. We're going to be discussing that on tonight's show. So what I need everybody to do, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and you know the new feature that they just added to the software, you're going to be able to go Instagram Live as well. So I'm going to be playing around with that. So we're going to try to bring the Instagram fam on to Shifting the Podcast. I'm Shifting the Culture podcast as well. But everybody else, I need you to like, share, retweet. I need you to hit that bell, stay notified so that every time we drop a video, you tapped in on YouTube. I need you to subscribe. I need everybody to go and do all of those things right now so that we can get the word out to as many people as possible. Shout out to everybody in the comment section. This is an international platform. People tune in from all over the world. So please, from tonight, family, I definitely want to hear from you. But we're going to be discussing Jonathan Majors and the verdict, and what lesson can be learned from the Jonathan Majors verdict. And I think it's very important that we have this discussion. There's a lot of, spaces on Twitter that's been taking place, probably a lot of rooms on Clubhouse that have been taking place around this, this latest news when it comes to Jonathan Majors. So we want to definitely touch it because it's affecting the culture. And we want to add that shift in the culture perspective as we always do. So I've been paying attention to the case. I, watched the video when it was released, the surveillance footage of the quote unquote, the alleged assault. And, I don't agree with the verdict. I'm going to just tell you straight off the bat, I don't agree with the verdict. So we're going to be diving into that shortly. You know how we do at Shifting the Culture podcast. We got to go ahead and get into our music piece. So shout out to Golden Child. Matter of fact, let me see. Shout out to brother Golden Child.
Really be justice on stolen land.
That's that in the background right here.
For peace and equality. Or when my car is hooked up, no, you want to follow me.
You know what this
Your
is?
laws are minimal.
It's that rebellious.
Think about looking at the real criminal.
Yeah. We support our black artists.
The victory belongs to the righteous. Our power is in our unity. Yeah.
We gotta support our black artists. So while we're in the process of doing that, I always like to show the video because the visuals is crazy. So let me do that. Okay, let me cut that off. Let me drop this. All right, so before I go ahead and play that, y'all already know, family, we always supporting our family. This is about shifting the culture. So, we plugged in with everything surrounding our culture when it's hip-hop, music, fashion, conversation, all of that stuff that encompasses us as a people, right? We want to make sure that we support it. So we always promoting black brands. We always are promoting and pushing our artists all of those different type of things, and we have conversations around things that happen in our culture that we can add a positive perspective to. So you already know we always doing that. I love to drop this visual because this is probably one of the hardest and one of the most impactful records that's out right now. It's a lot of good music out right now. Golden Child is up there with a lot of those other mainstream artists putting out this type of music. So this record right here, Rebellious, is one of my favorites. I want y'all to make sure y'all tap in. And here is the music video.
Eye of the trenches.
There can never really be justice on stolen land. Are you really for peace and equality? Or when my car is hooked up, no, you want to follow me. Your laws are minimal, because you won't even think about looking at the real criminal.
You know. Yes, sir. The victory belongs to the righteous. Our power is in our unity. Yeah. Look, when you see me coming, know it's serious. Am I really like that? Ask the trenches if you curious. I still laugh and know how to have a good time. Just gotta ask God to forgive us for how we get when we furious. Masculine, he, him, his. Yeah, I'm on that. Try to cancel me, you might get canceled. You should know that. Look, I can't let them castrate me. No, sir, they won't pay me for my manhood. Keep it, we don't want that. U.S. soldiers come home and the people thank them for their service. If they knew how many lives we saved, they thank us for our service. Save some people's lives that might not ever know we saved them. Long as Allah pleased with how we out here working, then it's always worth it. Look, please don't get us confused. Yeah, we pushing peace, but we get busy, we get violent too. Got some brothers with the movement, but they ain't got all they screws. We just found the truth and we were Allah. Come against us and you bound to lose. Can't say I ain't warn you, can't say I ain't tell you. Come through with them ones, with them members called us failures. Grew up in the trenches, but it turned us into warriors. Mama, I was born to buck the system, I'm rebellious for sure. Look, they ask me, is this real or is this for the cameras? A lot of brothers say they fire people, but really be scammers. If all the work I put in was on camera, you would have that answer. What I look like doing this for clout? Look, I got higher standards. I don't need 100 soldiers with me, I got God with me. Still pull up deep to show the brothers unified with me. Know some brothers ready for whatever that's gonna ride with me. Got some real dedicated members on this side with me. Youngin' out his mind, off a pill, he think he's Superman. Off a pill, he get way out his body, think he's Super Saiyan. He just trying to escape the pain for real, escape reality. Streets depressing, you could lose your mind and you could lose your head. Promise we been getting the trench together though, for sure that, They trying to tell us what to do, respectfully we know that, Lot of commentary from them people on the sidelines. All that stuff they like to talk about, we really on that. So look, please don't get us confused. Yeah, we pushing.
Hey, listen, family. That's my brother Golden Child with Rebellious. Make sure y'all go and grab that on all social media platforms where you stream your music. You can go ahead and get that record, family, because that's one of the hottest out right there. You know, the visuals is true. Not new to this, he true to this, and really the message that he pushing in the music is what's most impactful. I love, the Unity hats and what he doing with that, man. They just recently had an event that they was going to be putting together, but because of some issues with the venue, they had to reschedule the event. So shout out to those brothers. Shout out specifically to Golden Child for the movement out there. All right, so now what we want to do is move into our main discussion tonight. Want to move into the main discussion. All right, and many people have seen and heard about the Jonathan Majors trial. A lot of people saw and heard about the verdict. There's a lot of stuff that's been going on. It's a lot of stuff that's been going on in the industry, just in general. So now that you have the verdict with Jonathan Majors, it's just another, something else to add on to everything else that's been going on, in the industries, dealing with a lot of our black artists, entertainers, and stuff like that. So you got Jonathan Majors. The verdict is that he was guilty. Now, as I mentioned earlier, I am not a supporter of the verdict. I don't agree with the verdict. And what I want us to look at really is the principles behind these actions. the actions of Jonathan Majors. And when I'm talking about the actions of him, I'm not talking about any domestic assault actions. I'm talking about his choice of being with a woman outside of his race, one who did not have his best interests at heart. And it all came to head in this trial, in this case. When all of that stuff happened, now they're saying that she had to be subpoenaed to court. So it's not like she was running down to testify. They did say that. They did say that. However, again, the fact that she did testify and she said what she said. And then there's video. That's what makes it even crazy. There's video. But look, before we even get into the commentary portion of it, I want to read some of these articles. Now, the first article is 2 articles I want to read. The first article I want to read is going to be from CNN. But then I want to get into this Huffington Post article that was put out, and we want to talk about that. But first, let's get into the CNN, which is just typical headline coverage, okay? So that is this article right here. That says, jury finds Jonathan Majors guilty of assault and harassment. A New York jury Monday found actor Jonathan Majors guilty of assault and harassment of his former girlfriend during a domestic dispute. Majors, a rising star who has appeared in Disney's Marvel franchise in Creed 3, was convicted on Monday of 1 count of reckless assault in the 3rd degree and a non-criminal charge of harassment as a violation. He was acquitted on another assault charge and 1 count of aggravated harassment. Majors, who was present in court Monday, held a straight face while the verdict was being read. He left the courthouse without commenting to members of the media. In a statement to CNN on Monday afternoon, Priya Chaudhry, an attorney for Majors, said he still has faith in the process and looks forward to fully clearing his name. Shortly after news of the verdict, a source with knowledge of the matter told CNN that Marvel Studios would not be moving forward on any future projects with Majors, who was set to star as the villainous Kang in the upcoming Avengers Kang Dynasty. A representative for Marvel declined to comment when reached by CNN. All right. So that is the CNN article, basically stating that he was convicted and that once he was convicted, Marvel decided that they would not be moving forward with any future projects with Majors. So he was found guilty of assault and harassment, convicted on Monday of 1 count of reckless assault in the 3rd degree and a non-criminal charge of harassment as a violation. Now, this is the part that throws me, because clearly in the surveillance footage, after they both exited the vehicle, he is running from her. He is running from her. So I don't understand how the jury can see footage of one person running from the other person, but the person that's chasing is somehow the victim. I don't understand that knowledge. Logically, that does not marry. Logically, that does not align. How does the one who's running away, who's fleeing, become the aggressor and somehow is convicted of reckless assault in the 3rd degree, but they're trying to flee the situation? I don't understand that. So I don't agree with the evidence. Now, do I know why they came back with a verdict like that? Absolutely. Because as I mentioned before, we have to get into the decision that Jonathan Majors made, which was to be with this white woman in the first place and to have a child with this white woman in the first place and to attach his legacy to this white woman in the first place. There's a history of white women, destroying black men, destroying black towns, destroying lives and families of black men, all because of accusations. All because of accusations. There's a history of this in America. And this is why knowledge of self is so important, and we're going to continue to talk about it here on Shifting the Culture. There's a fundamental necessity to have. When you don't know who you are, you don't know the history of your people, make these mistakes that Jonathan Majors made that did not have to be made. And ultimately, you end up in situations like this. Now, let's deal with Marvel. Because Marvel couldn't wait until the verdict came down for them to decide that they was not going to move forward with Jonathan Majors on any future projects. And we see this story play out over and over and over again. When a black man is in hot water, a black man is presumed in America, based on the Constitution, presumed innocent until proven guilty, even though we know that the black man is guilty until proven innocent. As soon as the guilty verdict is determined in the court of law, they move to say, we're not going any further with him on any future projects. See, now they're piling on the destruction of the black man. The black man is a target. And what I want you to understand, family, is that black men are targeted by the institution of white supremacy and all of the policies and all of the politics that go into it. This is what we see taking place with Jonathan Majors. He's just the latest to be a victim of this system. He's just the latest to be a victim of this system. And see, now that he knew he messed up, now he go and he got Megan good with him now. But brother, you should have been with your own from day one, and you wouldn't even be in this situation. So I want to say that to Jonathan Majors, brother. The most honorable Elijah Muhammad said it like this. He said, accept your own and be yourself. You wouldn't have to tell Megan Good that she should be more like Coretta Scott King or Michelle Obama. You wouldn't have to explain that to her. She's already aware because culturally, she understands. She's actually a constituent of yours. She's a colleague. She understands the industry. She understands the workload. She understands everything that goes into the greatness that you have amassed. She is already aware. She already understands, and she's already willing to do the things that you was asking this white girl to do. So there's a lesson in that we should take. But moreover, you are witnessing the crucifixion of the black man. Now, scripturally, the Bible tells us about the crucifixion of Jesus. But nowhere in the Bible does that say that's the only crucifixion that has ever happened or ever taken place. Because a crucifixion is a public humiliation and killing of a person. Crucifixion of the black man. Jonathan Majors is the latest victim of that and what we see and know as white supremacy. So moving forward, we got to get into this Huffington Post. Because, Huffington Post is, or HuffPost, which is short for Huffington Post. I believe. Let me just make sure. I don't want to say that because that might not be true. But HuffPost. Okay. We know that they are liberal. We know that they're left-leaning. We know they cape a lot for the Democrats. We know about HuffPost. But what I read what I read out of this article was something I wanted to address as well, because they wanted to shape and frame a narrative not only about Jonathan Majors, but about black men that is being pushed more and more and more in society today, where it's leaving black men out without any covering. It's leaving black men without no covering or no safety net for all attacks from any accusers that say you have done anything aggressive towards them can now deem you as an abuser. See, what they doing is they putting out narratives. They're putting out narratives that will shape and mold the minds of the people. They putting out these narratives that shape and mold the minds of the people, so that when you shape and mold the minds of the people, when stories are ran or cases are filed against you, then this is already playing in their mind. So let me go ahead and pull that up. This HuffPost article. Now, the HuffPost article is going to read like this. Hold on for a second, family. Before I do that, hold on.
Stop.
You don't tell the white man that you're willing to go back and cut no underbrush. We already did that once. If we have to do it again, that's not progress. Hell no. Get out of the cities and the towns that we helped you build. Go and find some other state to move in. You move out, we move in. Now wait a minute. You say, oh, come on, Farrakhan, that's a pipe dream. Well, damn, you better put it in your pipe then.
400 years we've been lacking reacting. Ain't no more lacking we acting. We standing up now, we up at it, we at you. Now I go get it and stack it. Waking up now, we don't need no more trapping. Cause we know these niggas acting. They talk about guns, we know that they capping. We know they got it all rapping.
Hey, that's that brother being 400 years. I had to play that real quick because I had to adjust the camera. All right, so we back. So now it says, this is what we should all take away from the Jonathan Majors trial. Jonathan Majors was found guilty on 2 out of 4 misdemeanor counts of assault and harassment. He was facing on Monday after a 2-week trial. The conviction stemmed from an alleged fight between him and his ex, Grace Jabari, that spilled over into New York's Chinatown in March. During the trial, Jabari testified that Majors struck her in the head and broke her middle finger. She also testified that he had a pattern of being controlling throughout their relationship. Prosecutors played a damning clip for the jury in which Majors declared himself a great man and compares Jabari to Coretta Scott King and former First Lady Michelle Obama, saying she needs to make sacrifices. Majors' lawyers submitted a counter-complaint alleging that Jabari was actually the aggressor after sending a text message from another woman in his phone. This case had so many layers to it, and though we may never know all the details, one thing is very clear. Majors fed into a culture of abuse by trying to control his partner's actions. This is where they're framing the narrative. I want y'all to pay attention. This is where they're trying to frame the narrative. Though the jury found that he didn't hurt Jabari intentionally, intent doesn't always line up to impact. Exerting control over a partner is abuse. Period. And it's important to identify signs of that early on and take that seriously. After Majors, who's now been dropped as Kang from Marvel's upcoming films, was arrested, individuals from his past alleged that he was abusive towards previous partners and aggressive with production staff on set. Now, this is all very interesting. All of this is very interesting because when you listen to the way that hold up. What's going on with the camera? Let's get the camera back. Hold on, family. Hold on. There we go. All right. So the narrative that HuffPost is trying to put together is basically saying that Jonathan Majors fed into a culture, of abuse. Majors fed into a culture of abuse by trying to control his partner's actions. Though the jury found that he didn't hurt Jabari intentionally, intent doesn't always line up with impact. Exerting control over a partner is abuse, period. So when you listen to this or you read this, the narrative that's being framed is that Jonathan Majors was controlling. Jonathan Majors fed into a culture of abuse by trying to control the actions of his partner. They keep throwing out control. Exerting control over a partner is abuse. And then they go on to say that individuals from his past allege that he was abusive towards previous partners and aggressive with production on staff. I don't know how y'all not seeing how these narratives damage not only the character and the reputation of men who have worked hard to develop good character and good reputations. Not only are they damaging good reputations, good character of men who have worked hard to build them up, but they're developing this narrative around men and masculinity that says if you are aggressive, you are now an abuser. The narrative is stating that now, because you have become aggressive, you now become abusive. And that's not the case. See, men in general are aggressive. Men are aggressive, especially dealing with other men. And depending on the circumstances, the aggression is more intense than other times. But just because you're aggressive does not mean you're abusive. But what HuffPost is saying, what they're submitting to the people, is that his aggression led to abuse towards previous partners, led to him being aggressive with production staff, led to him feeding into a culture of abuse by controlling his partner's actions. I heard the audio clip. He was asking the woman why she came in drinking. That's not trying to control anybody's actions. He never told her, you need to stop drinking because I said so. He didn't say, you are mine and I control your actions, or I control what you do. You don't do what I tell you not to do. You didn't hear that type of language. He was simply saying, why would you come in the house drinking? He's trying to protect his atmosphere. And then he goes on, because they mentioned the Coretta Scott comment, and they mentioned the Michelle Obama comment. And then they try to tie that in with him being controlling of his partner's actions, when he's simply saying, hey, I've done a lot of work. I built up a reputation. I've done X, Y, and Z. And because Coretta Scott King was the wife of a great man, Dr. Martin Luther King, it required her to make sacrifices. Michelle Obama, the former first lady, wife to President Barack Obama, made sacrifices for her husband. I'm a great man. You should make sacrifices as well. This is the context in which he's using that, but these media outlets, specifically HuffPost, is trying to spin it. And they're trying to spin it in a way that classifies him as an abuser, because he's laying down the standard in which he would like his partner to behave. Hold on. You didn't hear me. You didn't hear what I'm saying, because this is extremely important, because this is how they loop black men into this culture of abuse. So now what you have happening because of these cases after cases after cases that are taking place, you have black men now that literally walk around on eggshells. You literally have black men who walk around on eggshells, and the more successful you are, then the more eggshells you walk on. The more successful you are, then the more eggshells you walk on. If you raise your voice, they would deem that as aggression. And see, now you getting into the white supremacy mindset that has always painted black men to be aggressive, to be ferocious, to be dangerous. This is what the Birth of a Nation film was about, to paint black men in a sexually deviant, aggressive, dangerous picture, and then show it to all of white America, so that the picture in the minds of white women and white people would be that black men are dangerous. Then you have what we all know from the Clinton administration, the term coined by Hillary Clinton as super predators that need to be brought to heel. This is on audio. You have current President Joe Biden, who supported the 94 crime bill that increased and brought into existence mass incarceration with the privatization of prisons and the militarization of the police. Yeah, this is real. Why? Because they have always deemed black men to be dangerous. And what Birth of a Nation did by painting that picture of black men reignited the Ku Klux Klan, and so that the Ku Klux Klan could get back to raining terror on black people, because they could point to Birth of a Nation and say, see, I told you them niggas was dangerous. I told you they was going after and preying on white women. We told y'all this, and this is why we have to protect our white women. The white savior has to protect the white woman and the white community from these savages, from these beasts, from these sexual deviant black men. And that was a lie. The whole thing was a lie, but they did it to frame black men in a way so that black men could always be seen in a particular light, so that they can justify the torture, the abuse, and the killing of black men. So when you saw the lynchings, that was used as justification to lynch a black man. When you saw the killings, that was justification against the black man. So now let's get into some of the cases that we saw in our history of where white women have destroyed not only black men, but have destroyed black towns on account of baseless accusations. Y'all got me started now. This is why shifting the culture is important, because we got to bring this information to light. We got to bring these facts to the table, to the forefront, so our people can be well informed. When you're not tuning into this, you don't get well informed. So you're getting all your information from all of these blog sites and these other media outlets, but they're not bringing this up so that you can have a full picture of what's going on. Because most of us, when a headline come out, we already have passed judgment, especially if he black, have already passed judgment on that person. Already passed judgment. And for those of you who are just coming in, this is your brother King Cam, host of Shifting the Culture podcast. And tonight we are discussing the Jonathan Majors verdict and the lesson that we can learn from it. I need everybody to head over to the comment section. Let me know what city, what state that you tuned in from. My Facebook family, I need you to like and comment and share. YouTube family, I need you to like, comment, and subscribe. Twitter family, I need you to retweet, and I need you to comment as well. And soon to come, the Instagram family will be tapping in with us as well. All right, so getting back to Jonathan Majors, we talked about Jonathan Majors' decision to mess with the white girl, which we knew that was not okay. He definitely not thinking like that no more. He went and got with Megan Good, so you see where his mind is at. And I hope that's not no publicity stunt. I don't think Megan Good would allow herself to be used as a tool for a publicity stunt or a tool to just a prop for court. So I believe that's that's something real. Stay with your people, brother. The most honorable Elijah Muhammad said, accept your own and be yourself. That's what you need to do. Keep them 6 words in your mind. You'll be okay. We discussed that. Now we getting into this. We talked about this HuffPost article that was put out, and in the HuffPost article, it tries to paint a narrative that black men are abusive, and that Jonathan Majors not only is abusive, but he has a history of abuse, and that even though he was convicted of not intentionally hurting this white girl, intent doesn't always line up to impact. Though the jury found that he didn't hurt Jabari intentionally, intent doesn't always line up to impact. However, we saw the surveillance video. We saw the footage. She was the one being aggressive. His lawyer submitted a counter complaint stating that she had been the one that became aggressive after she saw a text message from another woman in his phone. We know how that goes. See, the thing about Shifting the Culture podcast is we keep it 100. We keep it real. And understand that we done all been in relationships. Brothers, you already know. When you out there doing your thing, playing on the side, and you at home with the main, and you at home with the man, and you on the phone, or she on your phone, and the message pop up, and she see that, you already know all hell about to break loose. You already know all hell about to break loose. And 98% of those situations, the sister became the aggressor. She was very aggressive. And some of the things that she did can't even be repeated. Some of the things she said and some of the things she did can't even be repeated. So we already know, if that's the case, if she saw a text message from another woman, then of course she was going to be irate. She was going to be emotional. She was going to be aggressive. So we already know these things. However, the jury decided that they was still going to move on a guilty conviction. Now, we already know that was politically motivated. That's because you're dealing with a white girl, a black man, you already know. But this is why we about to get into some of the history of white women and black men, so it will help us see. Like I mentioned earlier, in Birth of a Nation, in showing that movie to white America and to white women specifically, it characterizes the black man as being a sexually deviant, violent individual who hunts white women. This is the picture that's been painted, even though the black man is the one being hunted by white men and white women. And we have historical records to prove that. They don't have no records to prove what they saying about us, but we got all the records to prove what we say about them. So, getting into some of the cases I wanted to talk about, because as I said, in our history, we have a history of white women lying on black men. The most famous is the Emmett Till case. The most famous is the Emmett Till case, where we know that Emmett Till was not from the South, but he had family in the South. He was from Chicago. He was living in Chicago. He came down to Mississippi to be with his family for the summertime. Quote unquote, whistled at a white woman. This white woman went back and lied and told her husband that the black boy, the little boy, Emmett Till, had whistled at her, said something inappropriate to her, and that's when they went to Emmett Till, where he was staying at with his family, pulled him out the house. Little boy pulled him out the house and killed him. We already know the story. That's one of the most famous ones. But then there's some other cases of white women in our history lying on black men, false accusations on black men that many people may not know. Now, many of us are familiar with Black Wall Street. Many of us are familiar with Tulsa, Oklahoma. But are we familiar with why there was a race riot in Tulsa, Oklahoma, aka Black Wall Street, that caused for the city to be burned down, for the town to be destroyed? The reason might shock you. The reason that tension mounted between the black and white communities over in Tulsa, Oklahoma, was because there was an incident that allegedly occurred in an elevator at Drexel Building in downtown Tulsa, Oklahoma, including Sarah Page, a 17-year-old white elevator operator, and Dick Rowland, a 19-year-old black man. What do you know? What do you know? All black town. You got this white girl who's an elevator operator. You got the black brother. There's an incident that occurs in an elevator. The white girl obviously claims that the black man did something to her. That ends up creating a tension between white and black. Ultimately, white people bombing Tulsa, Oklahoma, and destroying the city. So that's case number 2. Case number 3 is in Rosewood. Some of you may not be familiar with Rosewood. But in Rosewood in 1923, there was something that took place called the Rosewood Massacre. The Rosewood Massacre occurred after a white woman in Sumner claimed she had been assaulted by a black man. You can't make this stuff up. The Rosewood Massacre occurred after a white woman in Sumner claimed she had been assaulted by a black man. Frances Fannie Taylor, a 22-year-old in 1923, and married to James, a 30-year-old millwright employed by Cumner and Sons in Sumner. So you have another white woman who is making accusations against a black man that leads to the Rosewood Massacre. That leads to the Rosewood Massacre. This is what I'm saying. This stuff that you see happening with like people like Jonathan Majors and even with O.J. Simpson. See, white men do not like black men dating their women. And they don't take it out on white women, even though white women make the decision to go come on over. They don't take it out on the white woman. They take it out on the black man. They take it out on the black man. Why? Because they feel that their masculinity, manhood is in jeopardy if their woman is with us, is with a black man. They're no longer able to dominate. So they have to remove any potential threats. The white man don't play about power. We play about power. The white man don't play about power. And anything that he sees that is a threat to his power, he will move to eliminate it. So white men don't like black men dating white women. So when white women come back and just making accusation about a black man bothering her, the white man gonna get up and he gonna do whatever he have to do to remove that threat. So it says the events at Rosewood in 1923 demonstrated the problem of racial violence and discrimination against African Americans in the United States. Rosewood was a predominantly black town in Florida that was destroyed by a white mob following false accusations against a black man. False accusations against a black man. False accusations against a black man led to the destruction of a predominantly black town in Florida called Rosewood. I hope you understand what I'm saying. This is why, brothers, you can't be out here getting with white women. Because when you study the history of black men and white women in this country, it's not a good history. White women were just as violent, if not more violent, to black people in slavery than the white man was. You don't think that the white woman was very instrumental in everything that took place on these plantations, brother? Now, I know in a lot of the slave movies they try to depict the white woman as being softer and kinder. In some of the movies, she teaching the little black slave how to read and all of that BS. But at the end of the day, the real thing is no, she was all the way with it, if not calling all of the shots in the background as to how to deal with the slaves, how many beatings the slaves should have, who should be killed, who should be lynched. She was right in the mix of all of that. Right in the mix of all of that. And if you don't think she in the mix today, just check out a lot of these female police officers who are running up on black men now. Just recently, that's that white police officer who tased my man on the car. Yeah, she loved every bit of that. The officer that killed my man's in his own apartment. The one that claimed she went to the wrong apartment. She was thinking she was going to her apartment, but went to his apartment and shot the man in his own house. That was a white police officer, woman. So you see how their aggression level is towards black men. And there's so many aspects that we can really look at this at, because you have the aggression, but then you have the sexual deviancy on the part of white women, which they use as a tool to try to dominate black men. And this is why the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has warned us that the last trick of the white man is his woman and what he will do. Because if it wasn't for Moses and the other Israelite prophets that helped clean these people up, she wouldn't look as appealing as she looks today. If you saw her in her original state, brother, you wouldn't want to be dealing with no white woman. You see her now because she been cleaned up and put out front, and you think that's what you want to be a part of, but that's really not the case. And this is why I said you have to get into understanding the knowledge of self and the knowledge of your people, the knowledge of the two civilizations and the two races that's on the planet Earth that dominate the planet Earth. Very important, because if you know that, then there's just certain moves you're not going to make. Certain moves you just not going to make. So in teaching us that she would be the last trick, she is being used now as a tool, as bait to bait our brothers in. Being used as bait to pull our brothers in, to set them up for the takedown. You saw Get Out set our brother up for the takedown. How many basketball players, football players, got caught up with a Becky and destroyed their careers, their potential careers, destroyed everything that they had worked for because of a potential Becky. See, you got to watch out for these Beckys, man. You got to watch out. Now let's talk about Tiger Woods and OJ, because they thought that they had obtained a certain level of success and they didn't need their people no more. They didn't need their community no more. So, they tried to remove themselves from the greater community of black people, and in removing themselves from the greater community of black people and trying to distance themselves or separate themselves from their blackness, they ultimately got the wrong end of the stick with these women, these white women that they was dealing with. Tiger ended up paying this nanny woman a lot of money, a whole lot of money. Sister just was a nanny. She went from nanny to multimillionaire overnight. And when I say overnight, I'm not literally meaning overnight. But what I'm saying is, in this time span that she met Tiger, been with Tiger, ended up being his wife, and ultimately having children with Tiger, and having to pay spousal support, now she's multi-millionaire. And I guarantee you she planned it from the beginning. She probably planned it to work exactly the way it worked from the beginning. And you got Tiger sitting up on TV talking about he's a Cablinasian. What the hell is a Cablinasian? What the hell is a Cablinasian? Tiger can't explain that mess today. He can't explain it till this day. He can't explain what a Captain Asian is. And you got OJ. I'm not black, I'm OJ. You know, our brother Bill Cosby kind of fell into that trap too, because when you getting so much love and praise and adulation, you get blind. If you don't stay focused, if you don't have somebody helping you to keep you on that path, and you're not spiritually guided, then you get blinded by the applause, you get blinded by the affection, you get blinded by the adulation, and you will start to believe that white people really like you and that you actually can assimilate to them. And this is the mistake that our brothers and sisters make. More often than not, the brothers make. The sisters don't, when they get with a white man, it's not on the same terms. It's not black women don't get with white men for status symbols. White men get with black women for their own reasons that we're not going to get into on tonight's show, and for reasons we're not going to go further into. But it's not for a status thing. Black men get with white women because they believe, some of them believe, that it gives them access. Not necessarily because it look better, but only because it gives them access. White women have access to resources that other women of other races don't have. So they say, if I can get with me a white woman, I can get access. Some of them, what the minister calls using deceptive intelligence, want to rationalize their disobedience of dating within the race by using the fact that they date white women as a get back to our former slave masters. Yeah, I've heard that a lot. We're going to get back by getting they women. That's not how you get back at powerful white people or white people in general. White men can really care less about that aspect of the situation. Again, it's about power for them. They could care less about who you piping down. They don't care about that. They're looking at the overall picture because they understand that when you conquer the man, when you remove the man and you have power over the women and children, now you have power over the generations. You have power over the future. So they're listening and looking at the future. And they saying if he get power over her, then he can have influence over my children. And they understand the seed of the black man is so powerful that any place he puts his seed, it becomes black. So he's looking at his destruction. The white man is every time he see you with his woman. So that's why he's so enraged, not necessarily because it's his woman. White man not built like that. And Dr. Wesley go into it more in the Buck Breaking DVD with Tariq Nasheed, by Tariq Nasheed, but also in his book, Understanding the Assault on Black Men, Black Manhood, and Black Masculinity. It gets into the sexual fetish that white men have for black men as a strategic move of domination. It's really heavy. Stuff is really heavy. So getting back to these white women with these false accusations against black men, these are just a few cases. We talked about Emmett Till. We talked about the Tulsa, Oklahoma, aka Black Wall Street massacre. We talked about the Rosewood massacre. All of these things that sparked off behind false accusations of a white woman against a black man. This is not something that has just started. This is something that has always taken place in our history. And there's plenty of cases that you can't even find on the internet. This has happened so much throughout our history, throughout our sojourn here in America, over 400 years in a strange land, under a strange people, 300 some years in chattel, bondage, slavery to these people. These people literally treated you as property. So for us to have the love for them that we have, I can't understand it, to be honest with you. Like, they all right. But to have the love that we have for them, as if it wasn't just a few days ago when they had you, your children, your children's children, your children's children's children as slaves. And I mean, they literally had this written out in documentation, in wills. So when a slave master died and was going to pass along his slaves, written in the wills, it would say the slave name and then the slave, her children's name, and then the slave's children's lineage line. All of that was in the will. So they was making sure that they passed down generations of slaves. And you want to go and be with them just because the black man can't get it right for a little bit, and because the black woman can't get it right for a little bit, you gonna go run to them? It would be better that you went and got an Asian woman. Now, lately, you know, some of these Asian people been acting up because why? You know, because some of them identify as white. They able to assimilate into society and be classified as white and benefit from white privilege and things of that nature. So they acting a little bit other than themselves. But at least they don't have the history of the Caucasian. You could have went Asian. You could have went Indian. You could have went anything other than white. You went for the KV, bro. You went for a KV, Jonathan Majors, and the KV bit you in the back. Why? Because that's in the nature of them. These are people of the cave who had to eat raw meat to survive. You don't really understand they thinking because you don't know their history. When you understand their history, you understand their thinking and know that they had to do whatever they needed to do to survive. So crossing somebody out is not out of the picture for them. Not out of the picture for them. So Jonathan Majors convicted or found guilty, of assault and harassment. Conviction is actually coming up where he has to get sentencing. Sentencing is actually coming up where he actually has to get sentenced, and they said he's facing up to a year in prison. And then you see the move that Marvel made. See, the move that Marvel making is they're gonna now go after the resources by stopping him from being able to make money. And not only does Marvel pull out, but what Marvel is doing is they're sending a signal to other big production companies not to work with Jonathan Majors. That's the other signal that they put out. They put a bat signal up that says, hey, you want to stay away from him. He a liability. And this is what they do throughout the industry. They did it to comedians. They did it to Cat Williams, Dave Chappelle. You name it. Anybody who is a rebel against their establishment or one who finds himself in hot water, they will blackball you out of the industry quick. And I don't even like using blackball because that's another term that they have deemed to be a negative term, trying to take black and associated with negativity. But they will do these type of things that block you out. They will gatekeep to block you out in the industry. Yeah, it's real talk. That's real though. So you see what happened. Kanye West, Kanye West started speaking some truth. They go to the bank. The bank does not accept Kanye West money no more. Like, this how powerful these people are. They have the power to stop you from being able to deposit your money in the bank or have access to your money that's in a bank. They have the ability to stop your brand deals, your shoe deals, your endorsements. They can stop all of that up. And this is what happened with Jonathan Majors. So we'll see as time goes on what they plan on doing, because we'll see if there's other people who pull out because of what is taking place. And then obviously the sentencing, going to be another major headline on the sentencing on what our brother Jonathan Majors is going to have to go through. So he got his mind right. Now he would making good. Hopefully he does not mess it up this time. And I'm upset now because I want to know who they're going to use for this role in the Marvel movie. Who are you going to have in this role in the Marvel movie if not my man Jonathan Majors? And this is why Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that we need our own separate state of territory we can call our own. That's why we need to have our own stuff. And we're going to continue to preach it and teach it that self-improvement is the basis for community development. And the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that we need to have some of this earth that we can call our own and ownership over the slave ship. That's the only way that we're going to cure a lot of our ills. You cannot continue to go through the system that has oppressed you, the system that was built for you to fail. And we get upset when the system does not work for us. What we have to understand is that the system was never built for you to win. The system never had your and my black behinds in its mind. It was never in the thought process for us to even be in the game right now. And because if it was up to them, they would still have us in slavery. Physical slavery, if it was up to them. If it was up to them, that would still be the case. So they definitely not thinking about how they can include you into their system. It's just not how that works. Just not how that works. A lot of the documents, the founding documents for the United States of America was written while you were still in slavery. So Thomas Jefferson and John Adams, while they was doing all the declaration of freedom that they had and talking about men being equal, all men being created equal and all this stuff, did not include you. Sorry about that. But that's just the case. That's just the facts. It did not include you. They was talking about all white men are created equal. And this is why they act accordingly. All white men created equal. Now, do they have some scapegoats? Absolutely. Do they have some that had to bite the dust every now and then for it to be an example? Absolutely. But I guarantee you, even then, they looking out. They're like, look, man, you royally messed up. But when you get in, we're going to make sure you good. It's going to be so good in there, it's going to be like you out. Dylan Roof going to a church in South Carolina, shoot up the church, kill all the black people. What the white people do? That's my man. We going to make sure that he stop and get something to eat on his way to the jail. We don't want him to go in there and eat the jail food. We want to make sure he got good food before he even go to the jail. Because they so on code like that, and we got to get the same way. We had to become the same way. We cannot continue to act the way that we acted and then use this term as an excuse. Black people are not a monolith. Because we love to say that black people are not a monolith. We all don't think the same. We love to stay tribal in our thinking. We love to stay tribal in our thinking. Because it keeps us from having to be accountable and to actually live with one another and be agreeable with one another. I didn't have my logo up the whole time. I didn't have the logo up the whole time. But when we are tribal the way that we are, then it stops us from having to be accountable and stops us from having to fall in line, fall in rank. See, the thing about the military is you can have all the ideas that you want on an individual basis, and they will listen to the ideas that you have on an individual basis. But if it does not benefit the whole, then you got to stay somewhere else with that individual type of mindset. That's just real. You got to stay. I got to make sure I ain't got no. This happened on another podcast. Had something on my face and didn't see it till after the show was over with. But in the military, that's how it is. Same thing that we have to be codified. And it's unspoken rules and unspoken laws in the white community, in the Asian community that you don't know anything about, but they're enforced. This is how we operate as a people. This don't have nothing to do with your individuality. And I understand black people, we've been enslaved, we've been in bondage. We've gone through so much where our identity has been taken away from us. So at this stage in the game, when we have our identity, we don't want anything that would jeopardize our identity and our quote unquote sense of freedom. So any type of order or structure sometimes messes with our minds as if it's somehow a threat. Structure is a threat to your individualism and to your freedom. That's just real. And that's how we think about it. But we can't think about it like that, because what we have to think about is the whole, the standard. What standard are we going to hold ourselves up to as a people? And everybody falls underneath the standard. If you don't want to fall underneath the standard, there's plenty of God's green earth that you can go and settle at and be at, and you don't have to be in our way. Those who are living under the standard. See, that's the beauty. That's the beauty about it. You got free will. Nothing but space and opportunity to go where you want to go, be where you want to be. But you just can't do it here with us. Isn't that beautiful? That's sweet. People think because you want to lay down the law and the principle and the standard on how we're going to operate, that somebody's forcing them to stay there and operate like that. No, you don't got to do that. By all means, go. But don't come and lean on us when you get in trouble, or if you get in trouble, don't try to pull your black card. Nope, don't work like that. It's on a case-by-case basis. You need us to support you, you need to send in a request. Send in a proposal. We'll look over the facts and the information and decide if that's something that we could support or not. See, that's how white people in other communities, not just white people, in other communities operate anyway when it comes to doing anything. When it comes to building and development, when it comes to voting, all of that kind of stuff, get a voter's block. When you have a certain amount of people, 4, 5, 6, 7 million people who are locked into voting one particular way, now you have power and say, listen, we're not doing nothing for nobody. You got to come see us. So now the Mr. Kennedys of the world, the Bidens of the world, all of these people running, Trump, all of these people running for president, all the people running for governor, all the people running in your state and local elections, they got to come see you and say, look, because why? You got 4, 5 million people strong. That's enough to swing a state. That's enough to swing a state. When you got power like that, that's enough to swing a state. So you have to